All right, we are rolling right now. So first things first, ladies, say your first and last names for me, and then your title as it relates to home and school.
Okay, I'll start. Deanna Fairbanks. I am a mother of two. I have a background in education. Um, and yeah, I'm a homeschooling mama, and I'm excited to get started with this year.
Yeah, I have to spell your name for me, Deanna.
Deyyonna,
Mm-hmm.
and last name Fairbanks,
Mm-hmm.
Fairbanks.
Gotcha. And are you the co-founder of Home and Schooling?
Destiny and I both are, yes.
Gotcha. All right. Co-founder. All right. And Destiny, if you can do the same thing for me.
Yes, my name is Destiny Burns, and that's Destini.
Mm-hmm.
Burns is just Burns.
Okay.
And I am a homeschooling and regular school because we have 11 children.
Oh, wow.
So so we will be homeschooling some of them this year. We will start off public schooling a few of them, and then depending on how it goes, we are probably going to end up homeschooling everybody, but we're just going to start, or we're going to continue rather, kind of start with the little ones.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. So, ladies, I wanted to talk to you guys about just your thoughts on this entire school year, from when COVID-19 hit with the pandemic to just your thoughts on homeschooling, and then just your organization and your business. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about Hope in Homeschooling and when it was founded. What made you guys want to do it?
So I'll go. So
Mhm.
really, myself as well as Deanna. So Deanna, has always been an advocate for our public schools, and I actually work in the public school system. Interestingly enough, but my husband and I have always supplemented their education, our children, partly because there were some things that we wanted them to learn that we knew that there wasn't just time enough to teach in classrooms. And so the tornado hit and it rocked Nashville's world. And specifically North Nashville, we are still to this day really trying to rebuild. And obviously, that's going to be a process. But I represented the schools at the time in the North. And so when the tornado hit, like, we hit the ground running. We were, we helped with the disaster relief efforts, setting up kind of a tornado response at the Northwest Y. We did one, then we transitioned to the Magruder Center. So tornado hit and we were like, oh my gosh. And I work with Community Achieves. And I also am heavily involved as well at the Magruder Center. And so, like, literally, those are two frontline entities, right? And so, I mean, literally, we knew then there were kind of some sparks of this COVID, but no one really knew what it was. Like,
Mhm.
we were kind of like, at the time, we heard it on the news, it was in Asia. And, sometimes we Americans, we, I don't want to say that we think we're untouchable, but I do believe at times, sometimes it's going to take us actually going through something, right? And so at the
Mhm.
time, we were kind of like, oh, COVID, but we heard it. And especially in the communities we serve, we were like, it could really hit our community hard, right? But we never really thought about it because, again, tornado 2020. So we weren't thinking COVID. And then our children went back to school for spring break. I think it might have been a few days. And then they never went back.
Mhm.
And so at the time, I was concerned as a parent because I'm like, okay, what are our kids going to do? And I have an oldest daughter. My older daughter goes to Harpeth Hall, my oldest daughter. And so literally Harpeth Hall, probably within about a week to a week and a half, was right back to business as usual. Like, she had her laptop, and they had laptops since 5th grade, but she had her laptop. They were doing online assignments. They were doing everything. And you really started to see the equity gap between public and private. And I've spoken to many of my friends who kind of echoed that. They have, children who are in private school, and they were like, hey, like, they didn't miss a beat. Whereas my children who were in public school, and don't get me wrong, like, I appreciate
Mm.
teachers, I appreciate administrators, I do, because it's a hard job and I'm not in the classroom. But we understand what MMPS budget's going through. We understand things, right? And so we realized, Deanna and I were having conversations, and I was like, there's no schoolwork. Like, what's going on? Like, it's March, like it's April. And so I immediately, like, as soon as about a week passed and I saw that my daughter at Harpeth Hall continued, I told my husband, like, okay, I was like, I've been preparing for this, like, let's do it. And so we started supplementing at that moment. Like, I was blessed to have a friend who used to homeschool her daughter, and she gave me boxes of homeschool curriculum. And I've been studying homeschooling for so long and the positive effects on homeschooling for African American children. So I was prepared, and we have been kind of preparing for this anyway. And at the time, Deanna the same way. She used to homeschool
Yeah.
her children. And
Oh
so
yeah, and I felt
we,
that about
you
that a
know,
minute.
right. We were talking, and I was like, okay, Deanna, like, people need us. Like, we know how to do this. Let's do it. And Hope and Homeschool literally was birthed out of, and I'll let Deanna kind of talk about her swimming pool analogy, but it was birthed out of the, like, we have to do this. We know that we can because we've done it before. So we need to give other families hope. We need to let them know that if they really want to make this decision, if they're not comfortable with whatever's going on at the time, like, we need to make sure that they have hope, and we're here to give them hope. And that's where Hope and Homeschooling came from.
That's amazing. Deanna, go ahead. I know you know, I want to give you some time too.
Yeah. So like I said, I have two children. I have, worked in education since the early 2000s. I've been a substitute teacher with Metro. I've been the on-site director at a child care center. And, even in birth advocacy work as a doula. So like, child development has been something that's always been, something I regarded as precious and sacred, right? And, in my time substitute teaching, this was even before I had children that were really old enough to go in schools, but I saw and I was like, yeah, so when they were smaller, when I did have children, when they were smaller, I decided that homeschooling is what I kind of thought would be best, so that I could, accelerate their development at the rate that I saw that they were ready for. But, life things happen, and then they ended up, going back into school, and not just public school. We've also done charter schools as well. And, we were cool with that because I was able to work, and, they were getting what they needed at where they were. And, then here comes COVID. Hi, COVID. Out of the blue. And, suddenly the whole, world of parents have all been collectively pushed into the swimming pool together to, take on, educating our children, at home. Some schools, showed up and showed out a little bit more with support than others. And that, is for various reasons. This isn't the space where I'm gonna be pointing fingers and blaming who and that and all of that stuff. But just, like the example she gave with Harpeth Hall, they were like right on it. Then you got some other schools that never really did actually get that together. And depending on what grade your child was in, work was not even available online for them in regards to like the online platforms that they were using for some of the older ones. So my middle schooler, she was able to get on and do the Schoology, and there were resources there for her. While my second grader, we were just, we just kind of, did our own thing. I, had to come up with something for him myself. And, it was like, it felt like, like I said, like I got pushed into the swimming pool, and I'm like having to try to figure out all of this stuff and navigate through these waters. And, at first it was like, like, like you feeling like you can't really get ahead. And then,
yeah, you're choking.
then like in those moments where like I was pulling together things and it was working and I was seeing results, and like, the children were happy and responding well to what I was doing at home. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've swam in these waters before. I've homeschooled them before. And yes, it was when they were much smaller, but in that minute, it was like, oh wait, I know how to swim in this. We're actually, you know what? I like swimming. We're going to swim on purpose. How about that? And so, me and Destiny have been talking back and forth about like, yeah, girl, it looks like, homeschooling this COVID don't look like it's letting up anytime soon, and like, under these circumstances, is this really the environment that I feel is going to be most beneficial where I feel like they're going to be safe and getting what they need. And, the answer, for me definitely was a resounding no. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this at home because I can. Parents are their child's first teacher. And, we believe very strongly in the village concept. And so I knew that we would be able to rally a strong village together to support our children. And, just kind of going through my mind of, going back and doing research that I hadn't even, because back when they were younger, I had to consider things that I didn't have to consider back then. So writing through and writing out different, like different points of, okay, well, what do I need to know? What as a homeschooling mom, what are some things I need to know? And me and Destiny were talking back and forth, and it's like, wait a minute, I know that we are not the only two that are sitting at home trying to figure this out.
That's
like,
right.
Girl, why don't we get together a co-op? We need to start, doing like a virtual, talk series where we are like, sharing, what we're finding and what we're learning and what we know to other parents so that they can have the support that they need as well. And so boom, out pops Hope and Homeschooling, which was cleverly named by 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 our co-founder Destiny. And
Yeah.
so we've been rolling.
And tell me about the name Hope and Home. What's the meaning behind it, I guess?
So, so hope and home, I mean, it's just that it's having hope in the concept of homeschooling. Like, what does homeschooling really mean? And why is it that more families, especially families of color, don't choose that option? Why do we feel like that's something that's inaccessible? Why do we feel like that's something that, oh, we don't do that? We can't do that. We don't have the resources, or we don't, I'm not good at math, or I'm not good at, and in certain neighborhoods and certain communities, you do have like a poor literacy rate. Data can show you that. So, there's some insecurity there. There's some fear that, oh, I'm going to mess this up. What if my child doesn't get what they need? And just pushing all of those barriers out of parents' way and letting them know, like, not only are you totally and fully capable to give your child what they need, but you have a community of support that's going to be around you to hold your hand, and we're going to walk through this together, and it's going to be okay. So just increasing their hope in homeschooling working for them and their children. And so that's my take on Hope and Homeschooling.
That's amazing. And tell me, like, so you started at, I want to say, what, around around May, would you say, that month?
So we started, I guess, we started probably as soon as, I think once I realized, like, my daughter was like going back to school, and I was like, oh, I can't have all my children in here, like, because I still had to work, because mind you, and I want to, obviously a part of what we do in Hope and Homeschooling is we dispel myths, right? And so Deanna kind of talked about that. So, like, I still work, okay? And I need people to know that there are plenty of homeschool moms that still work. There are plenty of homeschool families. There are plenty of homeschool grandparents. There are plenty of homeschool single mothers. There are plenty of homeschool co-parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was at home with many children. Only one of them was in quote unquote school, or actively schooling, we'll say. So I really had to decide, and I do want to kind of make the difference that there is a difference between like COVID homeschooling and then what we are deciding to do, right? So Deanna and I are truly deciding to homeschool. And this is something that even prior to COVID, we have been saying, like, sorry, my lights keep going out, guys. This is a part of virtual, right?
Yes,
so,
all the kinks.
Right, we got to get the lighting right. So even prior to that, like, we have been saying, we're going to homeschool. Like, Deanna and I have been talking about it. I'm like, girl, we're going to do it. And we had, like, been talking about it. But like she said, COVID pushed us both into the water. And we are now gracefully, like, backstroking, right? And we are, like, taking it. And so, like, Hope and Homeschooling for us is an opportunity to give power where parents feel a little powerless, to make sure that there are tutors in place, to make sure that parents can feel like, hey, you can teach this, and then to show different ways that our students learn, because we know that in the public school system, and our public schools are doing the best with what they have, right? But we also know that there are so many different types of learning styles that sometimes some students fall through the cracks. statistics show that most times those students that fall through the cracks are students of color. And
Mhm.
so for us, we are just being very intentional about teaching parents, yes, you can homeschool. No, you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it. There are so many free curriculum. Yes, we can help you plan. Yes, we can teach you how to set up your homeschool. No, you don't have to homeschool, you know, from the morning to the nighttime. You can homeschool on Tuesdays. You can homeschool Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You can homeschool at night. You can homeschool on the weekends. And so that is what we're here, is to give hope and to say, you can do it. We're doing it. And we're doing this together. And also acknowledging that in Nashville, the homeschool village is also really strong already. Like there are there are families of color. There are, our other families that are homeschooling and that are embracing new homeschoolers, and we're all teaching each other, and we're all learning, and we're all growing in this situation. And so, that's really what the Hope and Homeschool, like the mission, the vision is just to make sure that our parents feel like they can do it regardless of the choice that they make to stay in homeschooling or to go back. But hopefully they come to homeschool and they realize, like, hey, like Deanna said, I can swim and I really do like it.
Right.
And what's the reception been like? Have you guys seen a major uptick too in people saying, look, I think should be an option for me? Talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So absolutely. Like I said, there's been so much that has happened this year alone. Now, in my circle, I have heard this conversation about considering homeschooling for quite a little while now, for various reasons. But like I said, with all of kind of what's been happening, this year, and, parents kind of feeling like they need to have more control over what's happening, right? That's definitely come up a lot more. And since we've launched Hope and Homeschooling and begun doing our weekly virtual series, our comments have been getting more and more full of, questions and responses and participation. And, we definitely have gotten, messages in our inbox. Folks been hitting us up in the DMs, and then sending us emails and things like that as well, asking for support. It's actually, to the point now where we have to really have some intentional time to sit and respond to everyone, because we don't want folks falling through the cracks and, oh, well, I sent a message and nobody got back to me. Like, hey, look, we didn't know that all these people were coming like this. Like
It's getting flooded. It's getting flooded with people reaching out. Gosh, wow. How many people would you say, if you could estimate, is it over 30, over 40, over 100?
How many?
Oh my gosh. I feel like we're close to the hundreds. I think from between online interactions, because we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, and we are on Instagram. And so literally we try to be active members of the homeschool community. So we really do try to interact when other people are talking, to engage when other people are asking questions, or, even when people ask us questions. So I feel like the numbers have grown, and we've seen families all the way from Florida, Georgia, Illinois, I think all the way up to Illinois, just interacting or hitting our, as we say on our show, slide in our DMs if you have questions. And people really do slide in the DM. So it's kind of like we're so blessed, and we're so grateful that the words that we are saying are resonating with parents. And what we are doing, the actions, and we're posting it's really just kind of homeschooling 101, but we bring all different types of homeschooling mamas and dads onto the shows to help us, because we're all learning. And even as you homeschool, you may start off one way. And, we really do try to tell parents, I think the number one thing you have to get over is fear. If you get over the fear that you can't, then you absolutely can. You can teach your child how to read. You can teach your child, math. And if you can't, guess what? Deanna and I always give the example. I can't draw myself out of a wet paper bag, but Deanna is an artist. I don't have to teach my children everything. And as parents, we know how many times Did your mom tell you, you better do this, you better do this? And you're like, And then the neighbor lady next door said, hey, honey, have you ever tried to do this? And you go home and you're like, Mom, the neighbor said I need to do this. And your mom is looking at you like,
I've been saying it.
I've been telling you to do this for the longest time.
like, get it
Right.
together. And really, that's what homeschooling is. It is, that's where the co-ops are, come into play. And we always ask our parents, Deanna knows it's our favorite question. What are your gifts, sis? What are your gifts, bro? What can you bring to the table? Because that is the village concept that we talk about.
Absolutely.
I may not be able to do it, but there is someone in our village who is more than capable. We live in Nashville, where there are, 5 historically Black colleges along with other colleges. So it's kind of like we have the village. We just need to lean on each other.
Absolutely. Because I'm telling you right now, if your child, depending on what grade your child is in, don't leave me alone with them with a math problem. I'm warning you now. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. I'm not going to let you do it.
That was
I'm so glad we have people in our village where that's their ministry. Is math, because I'm gonna call them in to do that. Okay, because I already know I don't have it all, myself, and that's the whole point. We are the parents that we serve. That's where this whole thing came from, is based out of our own need to build village and build community. So yeah, we're it. We are it, and everybody is an extension, a reflection, and a part of it. Like,
that's right.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit about the virtual sessions that you guys have. Because and when we're done with this, please send me the links to that so that when I broadcast it, I could show, the virtual lessons in my story. But talk a little bit about some of the virtual lessons that you guys have had so far.
So in the homeschool, in the world, we have a very cute little thing that I think some professional development specialist somewhere was like, oh, let's do lunch and learns, right? Everybody's used to lunch and learns. And so it's like popped up one day, like, let's do lunch and learn. And everybody's like, yes, let's lunch and learn. And so Deanna and I were like, let's do some lunch and learn sessions. Like, let's make them an hour long. Let's just hit everything that parents want to know, and let's do it live, right? Yep. And so that's really where our virtual Hope and Homeschooling conversations came from. We have them every Wednesday from 12:30 to 1:30 Central Standard Time. Like I said, I still work, so that is my lunch period, right? And so we are live on Facebook. We take questions, we do watch parties, and we've had, one of the very first guests we had, her name was Latosha. And I think Latosha's in North Carolina now. But literally, like, that sister dropped some gems. She gave us books. She gave us scheduling advice. She gave us everything. And then we had the fathers on there, and that was a totally different perspective, because usually men, we don't see them a lot in homeschool groups or homeschool circles, but there are a lot of men who help homeschool. And then, we had Mayati, and Mayati was just like, oh my gosh, she helped us break down the different methods of homeschool. So just kind of like how you have different methods of doing everything else, homeschool is not just one size fits all. There are so many different, and so she was a specialist in unschooling and Montessori, and she was really able to just give some advice about how we can teach our children and not to be afraid to try out different methods and styles. And that's really the benefit of homeschooling, is that we have that time to try out different methods and styles. And so, that's really where it is. Every Wednesday we call it a sister girl conversation. It's like, you're in the, what do we say? You're in the beauty shop, or you're at your family reunion, and we're having a real, gritty conversation about homeschooling and how we can do it so that we can be the best that we can for our children.
Right, absolutely. And the topics that we cover are, things that you need to know and want to know. We bring in families that look like you, that have those kind of conversations like you have, and then suddenly now you can connect to it in a different way, where before maybe you thought, oh, this isn't for me, this isn't for us, this isn't something that, oh, but wait, oh, well, this person, they sound like they have life experiences similar to mine. They have some similar things on their plate like I have, like working full time, or being a single mom, or being a co-parenting, person who no longer is with their child's, other other part, right? But still figuring out how to make it work. And I think that's so important that that you're able to see it in all different, variations of the spectrum. So then that way, you can feel a part of it and feel like it's definitely something that's in your reach, and something that's super doable. And, speaking about Mythbusters, the children don't have to worry about what their social life is going to be like, because that's what everybody's like, oh, I don't want my children's social life to crumble. Oh, they're going to be so isolated. Oh, they're going to be bored. We're going to be in the house all day. Like, you don't have to homeschool at home. Get out of the house. I mean, well, right now you got to, be safe at home. I'm not trying to misadvise anybody. Maybe not immediately right now, but I mean, eventually you'll be able to get back to a point where it's safe to go out. But, until then we have virtual options, get together with some folks who are homeschooling as well. And really right now at the beginning of the school year, it looks like everybody's going to be homeschooling in some sense, whether, they've selected their own curriculum or they're using what, MMPS has sent home. It looks like everybody's going to be at home for a minute. So, connect with, let your children connect with their peers virtually, playing, like a little, Zoom dance party or, something, but, I'm looking forward to those days where, we're able to safely get back out, because the way that you're able to incorporate that in your homeschooling is to create experiential learning opportunities. Like if we're studying mineral rock formation, get out of those books. Let's take a group and go to the cave. Let's go to Mammoth Cave up there in Kentucky. Let's go see the Grand Canyon. Now that's some mineral rock formation for you. You know what I'm saying?
Down to Ruby Falls in Chattanooga. Go somewhere where you
Get
can take a trip.
out of the box. Break out of that, the myth of what you think homeschooling and doing it right is supposed to look like.
Yeah,
That's right.
And so, and that's what this is all about, is exposing, our fellow homeschooling families to another walk of life,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you say that, Deanna, it makes me think about, there's a mom that we've been working with, and she called me the other day and she had me cracking up because she was like, I don't think my son can comprehend. And I was like, what? And so she started to tell me, like, he read this book, and she was like, and he read it in like 4 days. And then I asked him questions and he couldn't even answer them. And so I said, well, does he like the book? And she was like, oh, I don't know. And so I said, well, what does he like? And so really, this is a perfect time that, as parents, that we actually really get to do some hands-on, like for our children, because, a lot of times we send them to school, and our teachers, like I said, do a phenomenal job, but it's really not their job to parent, right? Like, it's our job. And it's really not their job to tell us what our children like. That, again, active parenting, that's our job. And so I think one of the great things about it was, in the moment, I was able to help her come up with the curriculum. I said, if he likes music, why don't you print off some lyrics? I said, have him start reading those. And I was like, and then you and him can dialogue about it. And I was like, I said, then you and him can dialogue about it. And I said, and have him explain to you what the lyrics mean to him. I said, that's comprehension. I was like, that is him breaking down. And I was like, and he can even start to tap into those higher order thinking, because now he can do it. And I was like, and guess what? I was like, if you choose hip hop, which we were talking about rap music because he likes rap, I said, why don't you weave in a little bit of history? And I was like, because if you know the history of hip hop, then you know that hip hop started around the 80s. And I was like, and it was during Reaganomics. It was during, the war on drugs. And I was like, and that's history. And I was like, and you can weave all of that in. And I was like, and before you know it, no one said we have to start at slavery, which is where everybody starts, but no one says you have to start there. I was like, you can start at history wherever you want. I said, that's the great thing about homeschooling. And I was like, and then you can touch on the other things. What got us to these points where our neighborhoods were crumbling or where things were going on? We can talk about redlining. You can talk about urban renewal. Now you can really start to talk truth or speak truth to power. And all you're really doing is reading with your child song lyrics, which is what he wants to read. And so when I touched back base with her, she was so excited because he had already picked his songs, he had picked his lyrics, and he was waiting on her. And so that is just one of the examples of how parents are starting to gain their power back. And parents are starting to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm getting some hope. And that's the one thing I think Deanna and I have really enjoyed, is hearing parents actually say, like, after I talk to you, like, I have
I
hope.
got it.
I have
think
courage.
I can do this. I can do it.
Yeah.
It's been so, I mean, and, looking forward to, because that's one thing I always say as well, never have you ever gotten an opportunity, other than in settings like this to really tap into who your child really is. It's like when they are in a more traditional setting, they're gone most of the day, then you get home, maybe you got time to do a little something, but then after that it's dinner, bath and bed, right? Because we got to get up to do it again the next day. So who's taking that time to say, okay, well, wait a minute, well, my child is more of an auditory learner. I see they learn a little bit better when I, like instead of us just memorizing the timetable straight out, if I put a little beat to it and make a little song out of it, oh, they got it. So they're maybe a little bit more, with the kinesthetic, with the tactile learning, maybe a little bit more of a visual learner. And so getting that opportunity to really, tap into that as well, which is, something that in a traditional school day doesn't tend to be noticed. Then your child gets to feel more seen, more heard, and more included in their own learning. And I mean, they're here to master their destinies, and we're here to assist them with that as their parent guides while they're here, right? And while they're in our care, I mean, and so, like this is the perfect space to do that and to really cultivate, your children into who they're destined to be, who they're born to be.
And I could just tell you guys just talking. You guys are so excited about it. It feeds off. It feeds off with the person that you're talking to. You get excited just to hear how ambitious and excited you guys are. Like, it's excellent. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So where can they go, ladies, if they want to find out more information? I know you said YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Tell us a little bit about the places that they can go to find out more information.
So we made it really easy for everybody. You can go to @Hope in Homeschooling. So that's Hope, HOPENIN homeschooling with an ING. And that's literally that on all platforms. That's that on Instagram, that's that on Facebook, and that's that on YouTube. I was about to say MySpace. That's like, whoop, back in the day. But yes, so Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, we are Hope in Homeschooling. We call ourselves the Hope in Homeschooling 2 Live Crew. So Deanna and Destiny. And we are excited. We thank you for picking up on that, because we have to be. Like, education is important, and especially to children of color, but to all children from all walks of life. If you can read it, and I always say, if you can see it, you can be it. And if, statistically, it shows that students of color, if they see someone, a teacher that looks like them by the 3rd grade, I think it was like 13% more likely to go to college. And then I think it's a little higher if you have more than 2 teachers of color. So imagine all of our students seeing teachers of color, their parents. Right. Like, imagine the type of success we can have. And we're not just talking about college. Homeschool children have an opportunity to do trades, internships, graduate early. Like, they really have an opportunity because of the time. And because of the one-on-one care that they get. And once again, I continue to take my hats off to public educators. I have friends that are public educators in the classroom, and they rock it. They really do. But there are some budgetary restrictions that are continuing to make their classes full. And so things continue to happen where they can't maybe do as much in their lessons as what they want to do. And so we are just encouraging them to continue to fight the good fight, but also continuing to say, or, to let everybody know, hey, if you want to homeschool, even if it's a thought in your mind, talk to Deanna and I. Let us know, because we want to help you. We want to make sure that you're set up so that you and your student can have fun in learning and can be successful.
Oh, amazing. I love it. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to post this, the full thing, because, I got to constrict it when I go live at 5 and 6. But can people also email you guys as well if they want to contact you directly?
Yes.
And same thing, hopeinlearning@gmail.com, right?
Hope in Homeschooling. Yep.
Oh,
Hope
Lord.
in it's okay.
Hopeinhomeschooling@gmail.com. Got
Yes,
it. Got it.
hopeandhomeschooling@gmail.com, and we really are pretty responsive. If they want to meet us, social distancing approved, we will put on our masks. We'll meet people at McKay's. We'll meet people at Half Price Books. We meet people at the bookstore. We really
Mhm.
try to be as hands-on as possible because we need people to know we are real. I tell everybody I'm a real mom. I really do have 11 children. Like we're a blended situation. I have 11 children. You know, Deanna, she's a real mom. Okay, she has 2 beautiful children, and we really are out here doing it. And if we can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely.
So yes, hopeandhomeschooling@gmail.com. Hope
gmail.com.
and Homeschooling on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
And
Oh,
yes,
you guys are amazing. Look, thank you so much for your words, your encouragement, and just being a voice for so many people and encouraging them to do this. So I thank you guys for taking, for one, what you guys do, and two, taking the time out to talk to me tonight. Thank you
well,
so
thank
much.
you so much for having us.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. I'm gonna stop.